quotas exist and why these what you're calling
because we
privileges
want
exist.
special treatment.
No, but it's because there have historically and presently in most jobs been fewer women. And because of sexism.
How is it sexism when we have no barriers today? So we can
Who has no barriers? Who doesn't have barriers?
Oh, okay. Do you, as a woman, experience any barriers?
I mean, I think the reason for why I cannot immediately think of an example or like any of the barriers, right, is because like we're Chinese, and like I told you, I think we have Chinese privilege. And I think the way that I sort of present myself, or like grew up, I guess I'm kind of always like pushing or like being more independent. I'm not gonna let like some random guy take my spot for this other thing, that kind of thing. And it's not that like because he's like so for it's not as if like I've ever been in a situation where like I'm competing with this guy and like he got it and I didn't. It's more like I always make sure that like I present the best of myself lah, and then I'm able to get that particular like position in like whatever school or some shit. Or that I will try my best and stuff like that. So I cannot think of a barrier in terms of like work or school, that kind of thing. Yeah, but I maybe like in terms of certain disadvantages, like physics wise, maybe, but I wouldn't say like
It's a barrier.
policy wise I have experienced it so far. Yeah, I wouldn't say so.
I know in terms of like income, there's still quite a bit of a gap.
Yeah, but I haven't gotten a full-time job before. I don't know. Yeah.
Like I came across like some research, not in Singapore lah, but I think it was based in the States, where that was like they sent in like applicants, right, to go sign up for this job. And then they give everything about the same. Everything was controlled for. So the age was controlled for, the education level, the grades, all that was controlled for, right? The only thing different was the name. One had like a very masculine sounding name and one is a very feminine sounding name, so that you know that okay, this is probably a guy, it's probably a girl. And I think they constantly gave the girl like 10% or 15% lower salary or something like that.
So the question is like, why do they give them lower wages actually?
Oof, that's a good question. I would assume some is a bit like implicit or explicit bias. So like if you are in a male dominated industry, right, you don't really have a lot of females. Maybe your perception of them is like, can a girl really do the same job as a guy can in my office?
Yeah, like as in, cause like whenever we talk about like the gender wage gap, people are like, oh my God, yeah, there is a gender wage gap. And I'm not disputing it, but I just think that like a lot of times there's no like actual like a lot of reasons to explain why there's this wage gap to begin with, which obviously is problematic in or itself. Because first, it's like it suggests that then there's no actual rationale to why there is the wage gap. But second, then if there was a rationale, which was the one that you gave, which was that people in the male dominated industry
discriminate.
yeah,
I mean,
discriminate against them. It's fucked up too lah.
If you I think the truth is somewhere in between. If you watch some of like Jordan Peterson's stuff, you know who he is, right?
I know who Jordan Peterson is, but I never watched, neither have I read his stuff. Yeah.
He always explains the wage gap away by saying like it doesn't exist. Like if you take into account the number of hours worked in a type of jobs, right? Men do certain things, like men will choose more lucrative careers. Women would be in more service-based, blah, 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 or retail, which is true. They take up more full-time jobs. Women on the other hand have like, maternity leave, or they take up more part-time jobs because they want to take care of family, blah, blah, they take less risk, blah, blah. And then he will cite one of this other like, then he will basically say that women will score lesser on like, will score higher on agreeableness. And then agreeableness is a trait that is found in many corporate workplaces to be not very good for you because you're not challenging the ideas, you're not asking for more raises. If you are in negotiations, right, your boss gives you a small raise, you don't really pursue a bigger one. You're more agreeable to his needs rather than like men on the other instance who are more disagreeable and it will be like, no, if you don't give me like 10%, I'll leave the job, blah, blah, blah. Which is like I think 50-50, like here and there, like yes, like that is true, right? But there still exists some like discrimination that is causing the wage gap itself. Like it's not just everything that because men and women have personality differences.
Yeah, probably. I mean, for sure, there's probably like the gender wage gap. But yeah, I haven't experienced it, but I mean, just based on like talking to people, like talking to adults, I guess that I know, like I think it also depends on like how you present yourself in the workplace, lah. Because I know like at least in the previous company that I interned at, it could be possible because it's like a MNC, so they have like a lot of resources and stuff like that. But like I know that a lot of the women are actually paid like the same as men are on, and sometimes they're even paid more lah. And then they always like recognize them for like their efforts, whatever. So I genuinely I just think that it depends on like the company, how you present yourself, the industry you're in, that kind of thing. I think the notion is a little bit archaic, a little bit, just a little bit, yeah. But of like all the things you said lah, like the maybe like the 50-50 law, like Okay, anyway, wait. Continue the video. I'll be walking down holding my laptop while I need to go and dry my clothes. But yes, I'll be putting my earpiece, so just continue the video.
Women don't have barriers?
Women, yeah. What's
We have
stopping
no
you? You can do
barriers.
whatever you want. What's
I
stopping
can
you?
or you can?
What's stopping you? As a woman.
As a woman.
As a woman.
That ignores a lot that I'm a woman with a disability. So there's a lot stopping me that you don't have to think about.
Well, as I
You don't
said
have to
before,
think
I'm
about.
speaking about women.
You're speaking for yourself.
You're speaking as an
able-bodied
woman.
That is why. That's why.
Of course, there's going to be other barriers if you're disabled. I'm sure. Like I'm talking about as a woman.
So you're
I
just
would
going to
agree.
ignore
White
the
women
pay
have it
gap.
easier. Yes, I would agree.
What?
You're just going to ignore the pay gap, regulation over bodies.
pay gap has been-
Oh,
and
the pay gap doesn't
endlessly,
exist.
my friend.
It doesn't.
That's so funny.
It's industries that women pick.
Let's talk about it.
There's a pay gap, but it's because women don't want to do the hardest industries.
I don't think it's that simple. I think that's an oversimplification. I think the fact of the matter is that women structure their lives differently to men. Men don't give birth. Men don't have to carry pregnancies. Men don't have to be the primary caregiver most of the time. Women also don't hold jobs for as long as men do. They often will stop and start. They'll go back into work. They'll take time off. They'll take part-time jobs. The way that men work and women work are astronomically different. And to try to say that they're comparable is where this issue comes from. They're not comparable.
Two things. First of all, let's dig into why they think that they should take these jobs, which is
Oh, I actually thought of a few stuff, but okay, I will have a conversation with you when you're settled.
Yeah, okay.
societal sexism, and then also Department of Labor, all statistics, at least speaking in the US, have found that when compared for the same jobs, there still is a pay gap, particularly when it pertains to race.
Because 60% of women have never asked for a raise. So how can you complain about your pay if
Why
you don't
are
ask
they not
because-
asking for raising? Sorry, I've
yes.
been wanting to say something, but I want to be respectful. I don't want to interrupt people, and I want to let them finish their thoughts.
Jump in, just
But you know,
go
it's
through the
just
wall.
it is a very privileged label, right? To be able to say that you're feminist, right? And I say that because I come from a working class background of Dominican immigrant parents. My mother would not necessarily identify as a feminist. I look to my mother, and I do think of her as a feminist. A lot of my ideas and my empowerment comes from seeing her like survive and put food on the table. When I'm thinking about feminism, I'm always thinking about who's not part of the conversation. What are the barriers? How do we think about equity? How do we think about self-empowerment and agency and having a voice, right? And having choice, and thinking about our basic human rights, education, access to health, homes, like having bread, having food, and those things are very important, right? And they're at the crux, right, of what a lot of us here know that we need. It's like there are the barriers, right, that we constantly ignore that are very much systemic and microaggressive, right? We see them and experience them every day.
Like what in the US?
So,
like what?
What would you like to know an example of?
I know you said that there's like barriers. I want to know what barriers in the US today as a woman.
Well, as a woman or as a woman of color? Let's be specific.
As a woman, I said
we
as
don't,
a woman.
Well, no, I can't answer as a woman.
I
because I'm
just feel
not
like
a
your
woman,
question is
right?
kind of hostile when you're like, there are no barriers to what I want. Congratulations. That means you have a privilege where you're not facing any friction, and that's showing. And I feel like it's
I think
like
as an American, you're very privileged.
I'm not ignoring that.
The basic level of what the feminist movement is when it comes to just being
born a woman, right? Physically, pound for pound, we are born as women and we have less lean muscle mass than men. So there are issues of violence and assault and stuff like that. And so therefore, there are policies, there are things to help women physically, like, for example, I believe being able to carry a firearm and being able to use that safely to defend yourself against men who are born naturally with more muscle mass than a woman.
I keep hearing the term equity. What would a world that has equity look like? Like, would it be 50% of everyone in the same jobs? Would it be like prison, 50%?
That's equality.
50%. So
Yeah,
so what does equity look like?
So equity is generally described as a state of fairness because historically a lot of people have been arguing for equality, but what does that give us? Like 0.5 of the 1% being woman, this doesn't really do anything for us. And so people have talked about equity instead, which is instead of sameness, it's fairness. And this would mean that we remove systemic barriers to engage in society, not just for women, but also for everyone.
So which barriers?
Those barriers that you don't believe in.
Yeah, I don't.
For you to have a bunch of ramps in your life, it doesn't do shit. I need those ramps, right?
Can we stick to male versus female? That's my question. So I'm thinking male versus female.
But my feminism includes ability, it includes
my
race.
question is, you guys
I'm back.
versus men. Like,
Oh yeah, okay. I thought of some like barriers though. In terms of like earning capacity, right? Like when females are like taking time out to raise a baby, and then, or like if they are part of the household, there's quite a lot of bias, I would say, especially like growing up. I think it's quite normal like in our household that usually your mom or your sisters will be the one doing the house chores, right? Rather than then the guy will be like just chilling down there, just playing his phone or something, playing games.
Actually, like for now that you mention it, I would say like maybe not so much the house chores part, but probably more in the part where my mom will always remind me like, you're a girl, so you should behave this particular way. And I was just discussing this with my friends earlier over dinner. So for example, because of my CCA debate and my personality, I'm naturally a bit louder lah. And then I mean, not so loud that I'll be a public nuisance, but then like to her it's like very loud and very like not ladylike because why aren't you speaking gently, stuff like that. Or for example, like if I'm wearing like jeans or shorts, now I feel a bit more comfortable to sit a bit more relaxed, like in a more relaxed way. But then to her it's like, but you should like always cross your legs. Like you should always like, make sure that you're not like, putting your legs in a very weird position, that kind of shit. Or for example, that like if you are, you're our family's like only granddaughter, which I am by the way, because none of my aunts are married. Then like, you should naturally respect your elders, that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, maybe not in terms of like wage barriers, but in terms of like actual like, tiny day-to-day life, I'm always reminded that I'm a girl, I should do this, I should behave this way. And it just always gets to me because I'll always be like, wait, so what if I'm a girl, like I don't understand, like why can't I just sit however I want or say whatever I want or speak in whatever volume I want, as long as I'm not hurting someone else lah. But to her,
Would
or
you say
like
there's a barrier to succeeding as a female, or is it just like
I would say it's like a
living
barrier.
in a very gender norm world?
Yeah, I would say it's more like a barrier to a barrier to just be yourself,
Right.
generally speaking.
Okay.
Yeah. And whereas the other one where like, if you're a girl, then you go home late. The one where they always say like guys can go home late or at a younger age because they're guys, and then they, like what she just said, pound for pound, they are like physically like stronger, whatever. And then they're less likely to experience like assault in any way. Then I always get that from my mom until like, I just sort of ignore her lah. But the point is that like, they have very like traditional mindsets of like how or what female should behave or should be doing. And then I think this sort of like that sort of control prevents you from living the sort of life that you want or be who you want to be, and then I just think that is screwed up just because of your gender. So I'll always fight her on this and she will always fight me back and I give up. So yeah.
Well, where I was getting at with the house chores, right? It's like, I don't know if you heard about like this like unpaid household labor theory.
Oh no, but I can take a like, I mean I can guess like what it suggest. Yeah.
It's basically where like so let's say you're raising a child, or like let's say you're doing cleaning or cooking at home, right? It's technically unpaid labor. You don't get any money, you don't get any like monetary value from it. But if you were to outsource it to a third person, right, like we have to do right now. So like let's say you and a guy get married, you have a kid, you have to go back to work. But but with your kid, you have to hire a nanny, or you have to hire a maid or something. We pay that maid, right? But then if a woman decides to stay at home, and then she's expected to do all these chores, and then because of the societal values that, okay, you know, you're a girl, you should be the one cooking, you should be doing blah, blah, right? There's that unpaid labor that goes or is placed upon that girl. You know, she doesn't get any sort of reimbursement for anything that she does to raise up that.
True. That's very true. That's very true. I mean, yeah, I think that assumes that like you are like you as the female is going to stay behind and be a housewife instead of your husband staying behind to be a house husband. Yeah. Because technically, if like that family, the guy becomes the house husband, then he is also an unpaid labor in a sense.
Yeah. I mean, it goes across the board, but just because the world is so skewed to having, okay, you know, you're good, you just stay at home, take care of the kid. I think another one is like a bit about what you were mentioning about how, like, you know, you cannot really go home late at night. You can't stay up too late at night, because like if you look at the stats, right, like all the sexual assault, all the rape cases are heavily skewed against like females. So like guys are very like even for myself, right, I faced like sexual assaults before, and most of them come from other guys. So it's very prominent to be a guy thing. Like it's and it's a barrier in a way that, you know, it kind of puts you off like either certain things you can do, like it can diminish your freedom a bit. You don't feel like you're safe when you hang out at certain spots, like maybe the sauna or the club, or like a random place where you could meet new people, or even on like university campus. Because I remember like there was this there was this like campaign, right, that was talking about rape culture, and how like before your daughter graduates college, right, or university, there's like a 25% chance of her being raped, or something like that. Yeah. So I think like that itself is a barrier also, because like, you know, you're not safe in an environment where you are where you should be, like where you're allowed to excel and all that.
Yeah.
And also it's so hard to kind of get justice for females who have been sexually assaulted, or males even. Like if you don't have
it's really very
concrete
tough.
proof, right, of the rape, then like I think they can't even solve like I think 5 or 10% of rape cases. Most of them just go off with just a warning, because like if you don't have video evidence of the rape, or if it's he say she say, which is most of the rape cases, right, then the guy will just go scot-free.
Yeah.
What barriers do we need to remove? Because that's my statement. I'm not stating anything else. I'm stating women versus men.
It's very silly.
So what barriers?
The question is fair question. It's not a fair question. How is it not a fair question?
Proving the point of why what people, especially black women, other people, or anybody who's not white, why we hear feminism and we don't want that label, because it means, I'm just gonna say, it means that. Like, it means that you've already gone to a pinnacle of whatever you think your happiness needs or whatever your survival needs are, when there are people on lower end who are trying to survive, who are trying to get to a point of what should be normal, based on what other people have.
It sort of sounds like you're saying feminism is not always inclusive, then.
Right. It's most of the time it's not inclusive. And more times than not, it's not. So, and within the feminism space, again, there obviously the very basic is male versus female versus, you know, but unfortunately, we only had one subset of women be the face and voice and academics and research and everything to be able to say, well, that's the standard we need to be in, when there are other people who are still trying to get to some type of normalcy and just living.
What is the biggest issue then that feminism faces?
I think it's the mindset. Women taking like the agency, women taking initiative. I think it's mindset holding them back a lot, because if you want to be in a competitive world and compete, you have to have the right mindset. And I think a lot of people blame their lack of confidence or what society tells them for the reason they're not achieving what they need to achieve, when that's not the case. You have to have the mindset of achieving, because the men who built the world had the mindset of building it. So the women who want to engage and build that further, they need to have that same mindset.
I don't think we do. I think it's like assuming that we all want to be capitalist babies. Right. I think that men are not well adjusted in the society, and women are not trying to re-embody what they have built for us. I think that like what we're forgetting is a very important detail, which is just like human respect and dignity, and not asking people to prove what their experience is and to prove to you. Like, it is like such conservative thinking to say like, I don't understand, explain it to me, versus just saying I don't understand and let me respect what you are saying.
I'm respecting wherever your starting point. I'm respecting that. I'm really respecting that. I'm saying that if you don't have the mindset, you can even achieve it. You're never going to even try. So it's
never achieve what? Like, what are we talking about?
That
Projected this like capitalist ideology on every woman.
Achieve whatever it is you're looking for, equality, equity. But what I'm saying is women in the feminist space and a lot of these other spaces, we don't acknowledge that we have to take the initiative. We have to take action. We have to have the mindset. We have to demand those things.
I don't understand how we're getting so off topic. This is about feminism today, whereas everybody wants to make this about their individual, I hear all the multitude of other things that factor into my person. Great, this is about feminism, it's about womanhood. I understand that all of you have your own individual experiences and the other things that feed into you as a person, that's perfectly fine. But this is where intersectionality falls off the planet and loses, I would argue, probably the vast majority of people, including me. I'm not even a feminist. I don't give a crap about feminists arguing amongst themselves about who's the most victimized, but this is annoying to listen to. I honestly I don't understand anything anybody's even trying to get at.
Look, I just want to say that I don't think equity and this concept of competition can coexist with each other. Equity is building more facilities for people who need them. It is recognizing that there are holes in the market and there's opportunities for women and feminine expansive people and meeting those opportunities. I think equity can buoy the pre-existing system that we live in a good way.
And this is what we're going to get to. What I think the real feminist arguments are based off of policy, and abortion is the biggest one.
How many of you would identify as pro-choice? Let's do a show of hands for pro-choice.
I feel like pro-choice is pro-life though.
Yeah. Okay, and folks who identify as pro-life? Why do you identify as each?
You've gone from legal, safe, rare to, yeah, I'm so proud, let me beatbox in front of the Planned Parenthood. Yeah, I got murder on my mind. The fact that it's celebrated that murdering children, especially in late-term pregnancies, is celebrated, that people are so proud of themselves for mutilating a fetus, is just, it blows my mind. And I don't think you need to be pro-life to even take that stance.
You said late-term pregnancy.
Yeah,
a lot of abortions do not have
I made the distinction specifically because lots of people still celebrate. There are people who, when the laws were passed actually here in New York, they said, yes, great, yes, I love that.
But you need to ask about what are people celebrating, right? They're celebrating access. We're not celebrating kids. Like that's not what it is.
What's this
Right? So like, here's the thing. When we're talking about access to reproductive health and to abortion rights, right, and to being pro-choice, listen, that's your body, you do you.
The child is
You
not your
decide-
body, as I go. A baby. It's so scary for me to hear people calling like guns the biggest equalizer for women, but taking their choices away from them at a policy level. Why is that? Having a gun is an equalizer. Having rights is an equalizer. Having rights is an equalizer. And in this country, there are policies that are pushed to continue perpetuating patriarchy and anti-women, like taking the autonomy away from women. It is heartbreaking to see women pushing that propaganda. It's all brainwash. Like you,
brainwashed because you agree with me, so therefore I'm brainwashed.
I have lived deeply institutionalized. I have lived in Islam. I'm not interested in any of that. Like there's no like I'm not interested in like living thinking that like women are doing this really bad thing. Like in my religion, abortion is actually allowed. If a woman needs it, she's allowed, because you know it's very interesting how like fundamental America is. Like fundamentalist. This is nothing very like religion. This is very basic scientific human rights.
We're also talking about people not having access to abortion clinics where they're doing the things themselves and they die. Right? We're also talking about women in the hospital who are pregnant, who have chosen to stay with their pregnancy and have issues at hospitals, and hospitals that are like, oh no, we don't do that. Listen, for whatever reason, you don't need to explain it to anybody, but a lot of times when we're talking about access to reproductive health, for me, I'm thinking about Black, Indigenous people of color, particularly women and girls who are working class, who do not have even access to like proper sexual education. It's the oppressive state of saying, I will force you to have a child even against your own will, right? Especially when you're thinking about women and girls who would be forced to have these children, who are already living in very traumatized and scarce situations. You want to ask about barriers? That's a barrier right there. Women in poverty aren't able to access the way that rich women are, and no matter what happens, rich women are going to keep getting abortions, and people in poverty are going to not. And the choice, opening it up, the overruling, is marginally affecting people of color, people in poverty, way more than people who are going to get access to those abortions.
Actually, incorrect. You're missing the misquote. There's actually more abortions for people in poverty. It's just a lower rate.
Why do you think that abortion has been so tied up in this feminism conversation?
It's all just social structure set up around bodies. So if not all women are able to have babies, but it's about the barriers and
Once again, let's go to it real quick.
value that we give to these big bodies, right? And so if abortion happens in a woman's body, that's why the conversation is coming up.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You said that not all women are able to have babies or pregnancies. Are you saying meaning like an infertility issue?
A number of reasons. There's all kinds of reasons, and not all women are having babies.
Sorry, hand up. I think women want to sleep around and not have any consequence for it.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Yeah. So taking personal accountability and being on birth control, they just want to do whatever they want.
You say this like it's positive.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like you said.
Can I also ask, do you have any care to empower women, or is disempowering women part of your like steez?
This is a shame, insult, guilt need to be right. Okay. Why is it empowering to sleep around?
No,
Why is it empowering?
I feel like you do like take like the way you speak on women is very sort of like women just don't want to do this. Women just don't have this. Women just want to this. And I wonder why you have so much like hatred towards women. Where does that root in? It sounds like you do.
I am a woman.
I don't mean you don't have
Like racism.
Every specific thing that you're saying, like women don't want to work, women don't want to this, women want to sleep around. Where did you learn these belief systems from?
Because the question was, why does abortion keep getting brought up? 40% of women that have had abortions have had 2 or more. 40%. So what does that say to me? That means you're using it as a form of birth control, and they don't track the 60%.
What kind of abortion?
Let me finish. They don't track the 60% to say who in the future has abortion. So to me, it's like, why are they dying so hard for abortion? They want to sleep around with no consequences, even though you have 41 forms of birth control.
Who does that benefit? I don't think that benefits women. I think actually that benefits men, because it means that men can have sex with you without consequence. It means that you can sleep with whoever you feel like. Great, but there are consequences because women are the ones who get pregnant and carry babies and give birth.
There's a binary version of
yes,
sex.
because sex is binary. But please let me finish my point. It's tricking women into thinking that aborting a pregnancy, terminating pregnancy, is something to be celebrated, when in reality, for a lot of women, especially those who are doing it under duress, say that they've been raped, or that, in a small circumstance, or something really traumatic has happened to them, that's a medical decision. Or say that they're miscarrying and then they have to, have an assisted termination. That's a medical procedure. It's not a celebration of, oh, look at the one.
The idea, the sort of like moral setting of that it needs to be rare is, I think the delineation between that's a medical abortion and that's like a fun abortion is really interesting, because they're all medical. It's all a medical procedure. And so no matter what you're doing, going in there and getting it, like it's not like, oh, you're only allowed 2. It's just like, you should just be able to get a medical procedure done when it's something that you need done.
We shouldn't be desensitized to taking someone's life. That should never be an empowering factor for a woman. I definitely agree in that, like, there should be no absolute thing any woman should do. There should not be an absolute response to incest or rape or any of these things. Every woman should have the choice of if they want to or not want to carry that child, whether it is having fun, getting raped, incest, whatever it is. I don't glorify and glamorize abortion. I think it's a very traumatic thing. I doubt that if somebody has to do it, like if they have to do it, they'll do it. I don't think that people are like, doing like have 6, get to 7 free and having fun with it. And I think that like glamorization and glorification of any side is not okay.
Did Dodd's decision make anybody here sort of rethink abortion access, reproductive health care?
It's anti-woman, right? It does not center people to have that voice for themselves in their own decisions, right? It is a barrier.
right?
It's
If you
giving
wanna put it that way.
more, it's giving more agency to women because it's moving it back to the state level. So locally,
At the state-
locally the women,
What's it-
locally the women have that power. If you take out the viewpoint that life begins at conception, which is a really big defining principle for both the pro-life crowd who very, very vehemently believe that, and then obviously a lot of the pro-choice crowd do not believe that. Taking that out of the equation, you do not have just whatever kind of autonomy you want as a person. It's regardless of male or female. You can't just have free run to do whatever the hell you want. That's not how society operates. So
At no point do I have the right to tell anyone in this room what they should or should not do with their body.
It's not about your body.
It's not about your body.
It's about the kid's body. I don't care what you do with your
my
body.
body. We're talking about my body.
We're not starting to let your hand creep up. The Dobbs decision for me reinforced how important it is that we approach these issues from a cultural perspective, because it reinforces something that I've told many of my colleagues and peers in the past, which is that so long as you lack a cultural consensus, any issue can become a political football that can be decided by another election cycle. And so long as there is no strong consensus, I would expect this to be our reality going forward, these extremely vitriolic and aggressive conversations until there's another miraculous consensus that brought about Roe v. Wade. But what it more or less reinforced for me is that we're going to have more of these difficult conversations.
I want to talk about transgender issues.
So do you agree with like most of the arguments, like it should be the woman's choice, my body, my choice?
Actually, the part I wanted to focus on a little bit, or I focused on, was when they were talking about like there was a celebration,
Yeah.
pro-choice people are
I
like
see that.
celebrating it. I thought that was a very weird like take on pro-life versus pro-choice, because well, yes, like people do celebrate being able to have like the autonomy to your body, but I don't think that was like I don't think that is the fundamental core of what it means to be pro-choice or pro-life. As in, what I think the core of it is like being able to make a decision that is best for you,
Yep.
not celebrate that you made the decision. So the fact that she framed it as she don't really agree with pro-choice because of all of these like because of all these celebration stuff, I just thought it was very, very weird that she mentioned it. And I mean, yeah, broadly speaking, I do agree with everybody else, about like the medical decisions that you have to make, and stuff like that. Yeah, but like I said, like in the previous Zoom call, like I'm definitely pro-choice, like for sure. Like whether it is like early term pregnancy and then you like abort a late term pregnancy, I don't really think it makes a difference. As long as like you yourself as a person living right now is like choosing that you wanna not have this life lah, and you know that you're not gonna be in the capacity to give them the best life, then just screw it lah. Yeah.
Do you think the state is oppressing you if they are the ones controlling whether you can have an abortion?
Do I think probably? Yeah, because like what some of them say is that a lot of them, because of the lack of access or the inability to access it, then they will have to go to like other ways to like abort the baby, right? Like I mean they didn't flesh it out in the video, but like in debate we often talk about things like the black market, and like we talk about things like eating pills, whatever, I don't know, like doing whatever you need to like get rid of the baby, and like that's obviously like incredibly unsafe. And this I think leads to the other argument, which is that insofar as like the state has like a very, very strong monopoly over you to begin with, then taking away this right to you, not just as a woman, but this right to you to be able to choose, I think that is
immoral?
inherently oppressive. Yeah.
Okay. What if I was anti-vaxxer, right? And I make the same argument. I say my body, my choice. I don't want to get jabbed. Why is this immoral decision of forcing it onto me? And the government is oppressing me in Singapore.
I mean, then I'm like, okay, I'll respect that lah. Because if you don't want to vex, and you are the ones that have to take responsibility over the decision that you make, right? Because it's the same for the woman. If she doesn't choose to have the baby, and she let's say ends up getting ousted by her church, for example, or people are calling her a murderer, or that like she feels regret in the future for not having the baby. All these are things that she has to take responsibility over. And it's the same for the anti-vaxxer. So I'm just gonna like, for obviously I'm for vaccines, but like
Okay,
if
but
the anti-vaxxer,
at the national level, right, would you then enforce it going by that logic?
so you're saying that like, would I say like everyone should be anti-vaxxer?
Yeah, vaccine mandate.
Okay. As a state, that's a very interesting question. The thing is, I think that this particular analogy is not inherently the same as like abortion rights. The reason for that is because like apart from the whole responsibility thing, if you are not vaccinated and you end up getting like a disease, or like you end up getting some shit that can spread to people, for example, or like I don't know what the hell they give you for like measles or some shit, then that is going to like hurt other people. But then like on an actual like physical level, you know. But if you abort the baby, like at least on a physical level, it's not hurting other people. But
But
mainly
they
emotionally,
can argue
yeah.
that you're killing a baby, right? Or you're hurting a baby, right? No?
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like I think we might have went through this already in a sense. Like this whole like baby consciousness thing. I think we said something. I don't remember what we said, but yeah. Okay, wait. It's like 2:30. I'm very lazy to repeat the argument, but I think the vibes overall is just like personally, I just don't think that like for a baby who has yet to like come to the world, a baby who has not like have any like lead a meaningful life. I think that's something we said the other time. Can be counted as like a proper lah person lah, I don't know lah. But the point is that like at least on a physical level, like very tangibly, like even if the baby is a real life, like I just think that like as like you as a non-vaccinated person exposing yourself to that kind of risk and thereby exposing your family members, for example, is very 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 toxic lah. Whereas like abortion, like maybe emotionally you hurt like people around you hurt your family because they are like, oh my god, why you get rid of the baby, or you hurt yourself because like you're not included in the church anymore, for example. But I don't think that those are like at least on a very tangible level the same as like a vaccination thing. Yeah.
So you would kind of hound in on like it's okay to override your bodily autonomy if we can prevent more harm doing to the rest of society.
Yeah, I guess that's quite utilitarian in nature.
Mm.
Yeah. But like that's very interesting because at least in Singapore, like I don't actually know if we were like forced to take the vaccines when we were younger. Like when in primary school they jab you or some shit. Like I don't actually know if like that was like mandated, do you know?
Oh yeah, it is. It's like we all have to. If not, we cannot go to the same primary school and you have to be homeschooled or something. But yeah.
Oh yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. I just remember walking to like the nurse, then they just jabbed me with some shit that I don't know what they jabbed me with. And then when I grew older, I saw like because now your health hub, right? You can actually see at exactly which date and which year you got vaccinated on and what vaccination you got, which is very, very interesting because I didn't know I had all these things in my body. Yeah, so I was just wondering, like, I don't actually know if it's mandated, like at least at a primary school level. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of my talking points also because I don't know if you know who Gomeng Singh is.
Say one more time.
Gomeng Singh.
Gomeng Singh, no.
Yeah. He used to
the politician.
The politician guy, very anti-vax. Then I had him on my channel. We were debating about the vaccines, right? So I told him like you can't be like just anti-vaccine in general, right? You just anti this COVID vaccine, right? Because like when we were younger, we all had to go through this vaccine. So I had to picture what his position was lah. So I said I don't think you're anti-vax because you probably took the BHG and all the Hep B things when you were younger.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just anti-COVID vax. Okay. But yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, all the boomers and their anti-COVID vax stance. Serious.
It's the WhatsApp group, serious. All the information.
It's really the WhatsApp group and the WhatsApp messages that's been forwarded many times.
Okay, let's go.
Should trans women be included in feminist conversations? How about in women's spaces? Yes, they're women. What's the question? Trans women are women.
So I want to come at this from the position of an athlete. Oh, Jesus. So I play semi-pro basketball, semi-pro volleyball. So when it comes to like athletic spaces, I don't think that trans women should be allowed into athletic spaces because I don't think it's a fair. I think as female athletes, we work so incredibly hard for the little opportunity there is in women's sports. There's no barrier. There's less opportunity in some industries.
That's what a barrier is.
It's not. No.
Based on okay, hold on, guys.
Okay. So again, we work very hard for the little opportunity there is in the space because we're not as entertaining as the men. Sorry, we're just not. And so it's like you're going to take the little opportunity that we're given, and the problem is like. We can't compete. We can't. Like I'm 6 foot. If I go up against a 6 foot guy and I play basketball with him, he's gonna body me.
And what if I go against you? Hold on.
Years worth of training, and so it's like you're taking away the little opportunity that we're given. We all work so hard for, and you're just giving it back to biological guys. It's like this would be the end of women's sports.
Have you tried confidence? Eli, hold on, Eli.
Confidence can't make me bench what a guy benches.
I don't understand how you guys are so hostile. She's sharing her experience in this assessment. No, she's sharing. I have to go. No, she's not. She's a woman who's had experience. So obsessed with your own experiences and your own existence, and yet when a woman is sitting here telling you, I feel as though this is unfair and this is compromising and the situation is not helping women, you guys are like, but when you're like, I'm a black person that did this, and this, then it's not valid and fair and viable. Eli, I want to give you the chance to respond. So this is basically a joke of a talking point. Everyone has biological advantages in those words. How tall are you?
5'11.5".
I'm 5'8". I am a trans woman. You would crush me. You would absolutely.
Going density, wrist strength.
Yeah,
muscle density, you can't switch those.
yeah, exactly. But also, like, you would never play at the level the pro plays because you would never get there.
So let me give you just a few more examples here too. So Michael Phelps produced more lactic acid in his body, which caused him to swim better than any of his competitors. This was widely celebrated, and nobody contested it. Now, this is a performance-enhancing hormone. So we all have different bodies, and I'm not saying that trans women who aren't on hormones should participate, but there are, I mean, every major medical and every major sports organization agrees that trans women who have been on hormones for between 1 and 3 years, depending on the organization, have the same competitive abilities.
That the study that you're referencing had like 7 people participate.
I'm referencing several different studies. I'm a trans woman and a researcher.
It's getting personal. I don't want it to be
There's a lot of us
personal.
in this space where we're told that our opinions don't count because they're not the right kind of opinions, and we're constantly shouted over and talked over, regardless of what we look like, because there's one group in society that basically takes precedence, and it's frustrating. So yeah, of course, it's frustrating because when we try to talk about it, we get shut down, we get told to be quiet, we get spoken down too as well. So
Okay.
there's hostility there for plenty of women.
Let's try to make this an opportunity to speak.
You're literally a white woman from Australia. You live in a bubble and you're pissed that voices that have been silenced forever finally can be heard.
That's why they have the voice, because they speak up.
Okay, we're having a conversation about transgender women participating in sports, and I wanted to allow more people to participate. Jordan, I wanted to hear from you. So I am not a professional athlete. The closest thing I've ever done to anything athletic was I used to do competitive show choir when I was younger, and I don't feel really qualified to make carte blanche statements about whether or not trans women should compete in every kind of sport. And I understand that is kind of, that's a hard pill to swallow. And for me, my first inclination is to approach everything through a lens of inclusivity. But at the same time, I also can't speak accurately to every kind of sport and the different things that go into it. So I really think in these instances, the decisions are best left up to the professional governing bodies that dictate these particular sports.
I just feel like in places, as an ally, in places where there's no understanding, we can just respect and not really, like, our opinions don't fucking matter.
Eli, I saw you nodding your head over there several times. This is more than about sports. This is about free and equal participation for transgender people in social life. And the right sees this as a socially acceptable way to begin to remove trans people from different engagements in our society. So it does just start with sports or bathrooms or locker rooms, something that they find is more acceptable. And then at this point, they start to move into education, getting trans teachers hired, banning trans books. This is a route that is very effective because it's seen as more acceptable. But it's also overlooking a lot of major details. Like, I mean, do y'all know how many trans women have won national titles?
One too many.
One. Sophia Thomas is the only one. If women's sports were actually going to end in some way, I mean, that's just not happening. When you think there would be more trans women in sports when the majority of states do allow trans women full participation? International titles, 0. No global titles have ever been won by a trans woman.
I want to move on to a different topic. I want to talk about Me Too.
Yeah, okay. Trans women in sports, yes, no.
Sorry, trans women what?
In sports, like in biological women sports.
Ooh, sure.
Yes?
Yeah, sure.
Why?
Because I mean, I think it fundamentally just boils down to like if that particular sport organization and society at that point has acknowledged that trans women have like a space in society, maybe not even starting from sport, starting from like having gender neutral washrooms, for example, or like, you know, having movements that recognizes like trans women and realizing that like these people are like born the way they are and they just feel like they are not, you know, the gender that they are born with. And then, you know, they do all of these like hormonal changes, they go for operations, whatever. I think it's fine. Like, I think they should just have the same equal right to just go and participate in like that particular sports arena. But I think that's the first thing. But the second is more in terms of like feeling safe in the space that you are participating in. Because I think there's a lot of concerns, maybe not in the video, but like people might generally be thinking about like, oh, what if like, let's say a trans woman, muscle density wise, whatever, they're like stronger because, you know, they had like the male genetics. But like but then if they say that, then I would say that they will have to simultaneously say then that the trans males would then like lose out and therefore shouldn't participate in like the male arena. But you don't often hear that particular argument, and you only hear more about like that, yeah, men got a lot of muscle, so like if they become a trans woman then they will have an advantage. But like I just don't think that that is like true. Like anyway, like that's also not like the spirit of sports lah, because if you think about like whatever the true spirit of sports is, just testing a human condition to like the limits that you're able to do so. So like fundamentally I don't think that it's unfair, and I think like they should probably be included in it just because like that's who they are. Yeah, thoughts.
Wow, okay, so many things. Okay, I guess they don't really bring up the trans men because trans men normally don't excel in men's sports. They normally like end up losing quite badly. Like you only ever hear of like Leah Thomas and like other trans women winning women's sports. So I guess that's why like it's kind of like a big talking point. And then if you believe that, you know, sports in all spirits should just be about athletic ability and stuff like that, right? Then why not just have no genders. Then like why don't just have an open category, men and women just compete?
Oh, I mean, that's for a very practical reason. But that one is in terms of like money and like what they say, which I actually think is true, which is in terms of like the entertainment value. Which I think is completely separate from like this entire discussion on trans women or whatever.
No, I mean
Um,
like as in like an Olympics, right? Where it's not about like a NBA and a WNBA kind of thing where they have a league kind of thing. I mean like
mm,
in all competitive spirit, right? Just
mm.
have a open category or just females, males, trans, whatever, just all go into one.
I mean, technically now they are starting to move towards like having those categories by like having mixed like swimming relays, that kind of thing, or like mixed running relays where like they get to compete together as like a team, or even like badminton they, like compete together as a team like of female and male as well. So like I mean, I think that there is like a move towards like recognizing that everyone should just play together and like recognize the spirit of sports. But at the same time,
But don't you think that that will erode everything that all the women athletes have worked up for if like that's it, that becomes the new norm? Then like because girls
No,
will
I'm
never
not
win
saying that that's the new norm
girls
now.
would literally not win a single medal. It's gonna be guys all the time. Like if you look at like the Olympic stats and everything like that, right? Like the fastest 10% of female runners don't even make up like near the numbers of what the slowest 10% of male runners, if you compare
Yeah,
them.
which is why you don't have like, as in, which is why like you cannot have the best of both worlds. You cannot simultaneously like have like a world in which like everyone is able to play just like open battle royale, like male and female can just compete together in the same league all the time. But at the same time, like you cannot have a world whereby like you only strictly have male and female, because like obviously now we have this whole thing about like not only just transgender, right, but also like in terms of inclusivity, in terms of like I said, the spirit of sports, whatever. And which is why I just think like the current system of like being able to have this mixed like category kind of thing like sort of works. And you think about it, a lot of it is team categories, so that like kind of resolves the issue of like only males winning that particular sport. And then like I think that is probably like the best compromise so far, until like if they can come up with a better solution or whatever. Yeah, but I don't think that there are people who are against this like mixed category thing so far, or I haven't read about it if there was. Yeah, but generally speaking, I think that like the whole issue of like should we have trans people? Yeah, I think they should. And even though one of them, I don't know who mentioned that like I think it was the trans woman, Eli, she mentioned that like statistically there's only like one trans woman have won something. Yeah, I mean that doesn't really matter. I think it's just like it just depends
Okay,
on what kind of
so
sport you're
if
talking
let's
about.
say 10 years down the road, right, hundreds of trans women are winning, then is that going to be a problem with you? Like I don't see how that's the argument though.
No, I know lah, as in that's why I say it doesn't matter. Like I don't like, to me it's not an issue. Like whoever wins is whoever wins, Yeah, like there's no issue in there. And plus, like that, like I said, like there are so many like different categories of like the sports. It's not just like, okay, this one sport is only only female singles and male singles. Like there's just so many different categories, like
If we were
swimming,
to
like
talk about like just female singles versus male singles, and then now I want to transition, and then I just take some hormones, and then tomorrow or like maybe 1-2 years down the road when my testosterone is not so high, and okay, I can compete with you or something like that. Do you think it's fair?
I mean, go for it lah, go for it. Like I think like if you're talking, I don't see an issue. I don't see a major issue with that. Like I just don't, cause even though biologically whatever, like there is that whole like mess whatever thing, like what Eli, like I do think correctly point out that like different people still inherently have like different physics. Like I'm like, no, like there are some women that are like just heavier than men, then there are some men that are just smaller
But
than
we have
other men,
weight classes,
that
right,
kind of thing.
for that.
That one
So
is, but that's not for all sports, what? That's for like what is it called, wrestling. Like if you're talking about like swimming or like badminton or table tennis or volleyball, whatever, it's not weight class, right? It's not by weight class. So my point is that like
then isn't that worse off for you? Then if let's say I am a linebacker playing rugby or something, then I go against another female linebacker. She cannot put on as much mass as me because I have higher bone density, right? For example. Then how's
I
that?
mean maybe, but I don't think that there will be a world where like there will always be fair play lah. Like Like, cause if you're talking about like for example, that very example, like, it's team games, then like, then there might be other people who are stronger in the team, other people who are not stronger in the team. There might be like you might have a better coach than the other team, like I think fundamentally like it's very like sports is down to a matter of resources as well, and like the amount of training that you get, the amount of discipline you have, and how far you want to push your body, like I said earlier. So I don't think that
Okay,
there will
then I think that's a great point also, because like recently, right, especially in the UK, I don't know if you see now, like there's this rise of women's football, right? Like the World Cup, the Women's World Cup, so people have been talking about it more, and then people are watching more and stuff like that. One big complaint they always have, right, is that they don't get funded as much as the males, and that there's a lot of systemic privileges that males would have over them. Not even speaking about the biological, but speaking more to sports science, speaking more to like equipment and funding, right? There's a lot of funding for like English Premier League male dominant side, but for the female, right, they sometimes have to share the pitch. They don't even have the like good enough equipment. There's not a lot of like thought that's given. They like it's barely even a second thought for the schools to have like a priority for women's sports, because like I mean, for a long period of time, like if you're a girl and you want to play football, you're considered like a butch or a tomboy or like something that we can just overlook, right? But then now, because there's a lot of movements that are bringing across like equality stuff like that, that's slowly trying to catch up. Obviously, they're still not at the level of men, but then if with what you're saying, with like it also takes into account all the funding and all of those other resources, right? Don't you think that benefits me more? Because like growing up, I already have all these privileges that normal women or normal females wouldn't have. Then I go and make the switch into that kind of category.
Yeah, then check.
Don't you feel that I am like kind of like taking the piss here with my like male advantage that I had previously?
I mean, then like then check for you lah, like you because this like if wanting to be a trans woman is inherently someone that you want to be, then I think there are so many other issues that you probably have to think about within society that like might potentially like hurt you, that like might make you feel like uncomfortable at the beginning, that you might be disadvantaged of, disprivileged of, and like with regards to sports, then you're taking a piss, but then I guess that's just kind of like that kind of sucks lah. That's just too bad lor. But the fact that you are like even trying, I think like to be there, I think that's just very respectable and admirable in and of itself. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it is, but then like all those like privilege that I grew up with, right? Like I can even name another one. Like say, I don't menstruate, right? So there's some research that shows that women actually lose strength during the luteal phase of their period. Like how like the period has like 4 stages: the ovulation phase, the luteal phase.
Yeah, but move on, bro. Don't mansplain.
Yeah, exactly, right? So you should know this, like all the mood swings, all of the fatigueness, all the tiredness, blah 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 that you will experience, right? I don't experience at all. And then I go through puberty with like all these extra hormones, all this testosterone that helps me recover better, and I don't have to worry about any period, any menstruation at all. Suddenly I want to like transition. I just take a couple of hormones, and then now I'm at the same level as you. Maybe my estrogen is the same as you. So biologically, my profile is quite similar to yours. Like we are quite compatible, but then you cannot negate all those benefits I had during puberty, where I was having all these like male testosterone when I was growing up that helped me recover better. And also I didn't have to go through any of the menstruation that kind of put me off my recovery or put me off training because I have a dick, right? Do you think then, oh shit, actually it's quite unfair that, no?
I still don't think so though, because like I said, like I just genuinely think that there are so many other things that they probably have to care about being a trans. Like first of all, like even being accepted in the scene, or like needing to try even harder to like make a name for themselves. And like yeah lah, this menstruation thing kind of sucks. Like you guys are like living the life right now. Like just monetarily speaking, we spend a lot more money every month just buying like freaking beds and shit. Oh my god, don't get me started. But yeah, like oh my god, my luggage, right? Oh, the fact that I have to take up like some luggage space to bring it, right? Wow, triggers me, yeah. But anyways,
Hey, wait, isn't tampons free in your uni? It was in mine though, which I was quite happy for.
I mean,
No.
if it was, I didn't know. But also, like, first of all, like, they sell a lot of tampons here. I don't use tampons. But second,
Pets at least.
yeah, like I said, like even if they have pads, I don't know that it's available. But also, like I guess maybe personally, I just very particular about the brand that I use. Because different brands give you like a different sensation. And then if you're like at the most uncomfortable period of the time, you want something that like really makes you feel like you can still go about your day lah. Which is why I brought it all the way from Singapore. Yeah. Anyways, back to the discussion. Yeah, no lah. I just think like once you make the decision, you committed to it. You know, whatever is your past is your past. I wouldn't feel like wow, shacks, yeah, like this person, like I wouldn't feel like, oh my god, how dare they like
Come into
join
my
me.
gender and
Yeah, kind of my gender. I won't feel that because now it's like, yeah, good for you. You're joining the better gender. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, no lah, but overall I just don't I don't think I would feel unfair, but maybe it's cause like I don't really play sports. Like I never had to think about all these kind of things. But yeah, lor, I mean if I see like a trans athlete or whatever, I don't think that I will feel like that sort of like level of unfairness or something like that. Yeah.
Nice.
And sort of the social movement that we're living through right now. What is the state of feminism sort of in this post-Me Too
We're
era?
ending soon, like 10 minutes.
We're in post-Me Too? All right. Tell me. Sorry, I got distracted by the Me Too part. So I was like, we're post-Me Too? Wow, like no one's getting like sexually harassed anymore. We did it, guys. We still developed in that world. No, I think obviously the state of feminism is very much reflected right in this room, but Me Too for me, right, in a particular context, means something for different people. It's a different experience for different people. In my culture, in my community, we're still working through that. There is no post Me Too, right? We're still working through how do we have these tough conversations? How do we teach not just, women, but everyone about consent? What does consent look like? What does that look like in our community? What does that not look like? Right? All those things that I think it's still very complicated. But I think it starts at the level of community, right? Of like how do we have these conversations around consent? Sydney, sorry, Hannah.
So when the Me Too thing was unfolding, I was initially like, great, I love the idea of women being able to speak out. What's been really disappointing, I suppose, for me, post Me Too, as we're calling it, is that, and especially someone who's sort of on the right wing of politics, I think that a lot of the experiences of women on the right get a bit trivialized because there is a lot of politicizing of sexual assault. So when something legitimately happens on our side of the table and someone tries to speak up about it, there's almost an automatic disbelief. And I understand why. It's because of the believe all women type of stuff that came out of the Me Too movement that a lot of us were like, wait a minute, no, people do use these situations for gain, people do make things up, people do lie. But it is sad to watch it happen. It makes me sad that we're here. Jordan?
I feel like there'll never be a post Me Too because at the heart of it, Me Too is just a phrase. The spirit of what Me Too represented will always be relevant, and that is that you're empowering individual women to advocate for themselves and speak out when they feel like they're being wrong. Ideally, you're just trying to be the most transparent and self-accountable person you can be, and you need to hit all of those fronts if you want it to last on a cultural level.
How about beauty standards? We talked a little bit about this. This got brought up at the beginning. How does that tie into femininity?
Sorry, I'm very into this idea because I do think it is one of the larger intersections that just doesn't get very discussed, which is, like I was talking about before, barriers and friction are placed up around bodies. And the fatter I get, the older I get, the less people will listen to me, the less value I will have for society. So, I'm already starting out as a woman with no legs. If I had something on my face, I have my beauty. That's one of my privileges. I have my whiteness. That's one of my privileges. I used to have thinness and now I'm getting fatter. Things are changing. And I think every single time that we talk about feminism, pretty privilege should be discussed because we have these ideas. If your skin tone is this, if your hair is this, if your body looks like that, it's about whether or not you are given an equal opportunity based on what you look like.
I think a lot of times the women that complain about beauty standards don't complain about them when they got privilege, when they were young and attractive and thin. So it's like, yeah, you're complaining when the privilege is gone. But privilege is invisible to those who have it, and women, it's a privilege. And men don't turn 18 and get looks that we get.
As a Black woman, one of the most integral parts of the beauty conversation has been colorism. I'm a dark-skinned Black woman, proud of it, and proud of being myself. For the most part, I did not. Why am I going to cry about this? I did not grow up thinking I was beautiful because I was that. And I think in the black space, we have these conversations, but I think I'm glad to bring it up because I think feminists actually really should be part of the colorism topic because colorism is not just shade within being Black, it's shades because the beauty standard is the closer to whiteness you are, the more beautiful you are. I think it's something that if more people in different shades, particularly white women, because of knowing that standard, and we work together on that, then we have a lot, I think, something we can unify on, but also something that we can make strides in right now that I'm just not seeing is only, again, that's why people feel like you have to be a Black feminist because it's a topic that only really Black feminists are talking about because it deals with being Black. How do beauty standards make you feel, Morris?
I mean, kind of what you're saying, Antonia, as a Black Latina woman in my community, right? Like, I grew up and I was ugly, right? Like, that's what I was considered. I was not considered beautiful. Of feeling ugly, but also being told I was, right? Had a lot to do with what is believed in my community, right? Colorism is one of them. And so to say, I'm going to redefine beauty for myself and to say, I own myself and I get to decide what's beautiful, right? And I get to decide what I want to wear and how I want to wear it. And I don't need to, right? It's almost repelling, right? Like, I'm like, no, you know what? I am beautiful. I'm going to do what I want to do and I'm going to feel myself because if no one else is going to feel me, it's on me to feel me too.
I gotta say though, I did grow up being referred to as very beautiful for a woman with a disability, and that to me always fed this idea that disability doesn't mean beautiful. I am in some form of exceptionalism, which I then had to keep up with forever. So it's like I got this thought as I started to age, like you can have no legs, but you better not fucking get fat. And so this idea that like there are certain people who are beautiful and certain people aren't, and that inherently holds value is, I think, find it in yourself, yes, and
Jordan?
Beauty standards are toxic bullshit hierarchical nonsense. And I say that as someone who has spent over a year collectively in my life in eating disorder institutions because I have tried to put my body through hellish things to meet these beauty standards, which more often than not are not based in reality. They're typically trends, they're created to push things, they're extremely useful for marketing, but they don't serve anyone's health, they don't serve anyone's self-esteem. They only act to try and tell us that there's a allegedly right way to have a body. And if you don't occupy that space and have that body, then you're a piece of shit, which is absolute nonsense. And there are way too many women and men in the world who end up doing terrible things to themselves because they fall into this trap of thinking that you have to be this way. And if you aren't this way, then there's something inherently wrong at your core, which is nonsense. You're perfect the way you are. That's literally the core of it. You are perfect the way you are. And anyone who tries to tell you otherwise is feeding into this industry and is just, they're not your friend or looking out for you.
Layla?
Oh yeah, I was going to say, yeah, beauty in the industry is exploitative. But also we have to remember a lot of the beauty standards are based around health, what's perceived as health, like symmetry, certain weights, things like that. So there is that side where we have to balance it. And I think we're seeing so much more representation, which I think is incredibly important.
Well, I just think that like if women really cared about beauty standards, like obesity rate wouldn't be what it is. So let's try and maintain the beauty standards. I just think like some people are more attractive, some people are less attractive, and that's just, where I rate myself 1 to 10. Like,
Okay.
that's what I mean. Like I just think like some people
So
are more
if you're
attractive.
overweight, you don't care about beauty standards.
Well,
Is that
I
right?
think the point is that the beauty standard is thin, right?
Your standard? Obesity comes from men and women, though.
Yeah, you're right. That's true. But I'm saying if women really wanted to fit the beauty standard, they would be thin.
I know, I just from my experience as well as growing up again in a mostly white neighborhood where I was always comparing myself to literally other people who have a different body type, but I wasn't, because I was considered other or to something because it didn't conform to that body type.
Do you agree that? Do you think a lot of girls are overweight because they don't care about the beauty standard or what?
I mean, there's a lot of reasons for why like people can be overweight, like health, like genetically, like some people are just overweight, like no choice, boobs, and then like there are sometimes like they are just going through a lot of shit in life, and then they cannot control eating or they use eating as a coping mechanism, and then maybe there are those people who are just like they don't care about their health and they just let loose, for example. I just think that there's a lot of reasons, and I don't think that it immediately turns into like, oh, I don't care about beauty standards, which is why I am overweight.
Yeah, I agree.
When that same body type became popular with Kim Kardashian and the Kardashians, who are different, right, than me, let's just say, are different skin color, right? And there's a lot of animosity, a lot of Black communities of the fact that when it was on Black skin, it was an issue, but when it was on Kim Kardashian and the Kardashians, it was $1 billion business.
Yep. Our time together has almost come to an end. We sort of started talking about feminism, big picture. But we're going to try again. Is feminism dead?
I think feminism is alive, and I'm thankful to be a participant and believer of it.
I would say, as far as the West goes, I think that feminism has been cannibalized by other movements like leftism, like transgenderism.
So I think feminism is very much alive and well. I think it takes different forms depending on who you're talking to, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. And as I defined in the beginning, for me, I use it as a lens. So I don't think I'll ever stop having it in my arsenal, if you will. It makes for a good voice panel. Okay, we're done. I appreciate everybody taking the time. I know this is, it got a little heated at times, but
Okay, what do you think about the whole panel though, as a whole?
Oh, so they're very intense. And then because I wanted to see whether there were like comments, right? Then I realized, oh, it's turned off. Yeah, I went to YouTube up, then it was like turned off. Then I started searching like on Reddit and like wow, people are saying like the panel is crazy, that kind of thing.
Well,
I
okay,
think
yeah, I kind of agree. Like some, especially at the start where they were talking about like feminism, then they were like bring my
yeah, bro.
race, then I'm like handicapped. I'm
Yeah. They're just like victimizing themselves in like all that, like just fighting to see who is the most like
oppressed.
the greatest victim. Yeah, which I think is kind of weird if you want to talk about like these issues lah. But I think it's okay to have like all of like their very, very different like opinions, because obviously a lot of it has to do with like their personal life experiences, about like what they think about this particular group of people, that particular topic that they're talking about, So yeah, I mean, they are a little bit crazy at the start, but overall I think like they make a lot of interesting points. I may not agree with all of it. Like I said, I think that at points their logic is kind of weird, kind of wonky. But yeah, overall I think it's okay.
Nice.
Not bad.
There's another panel. I think when you're free or if you're interested, then we should like review again.
Oh, which one is it?
It's not by Vice. I think it's by Jubilee. I saw it.
Oh,
once, but I
Jubilee.
haven't seen it yet. My friend told me it was really good to watch that one.
What is your search in like italicized? Why is your search italicized?
I have no idea.
Oh.
I did not adjust it, but yeah. Because he said right that the conversation that we watched just now wasn't very productive because like they were too hostile. Yeah, he said this one they made a lot more progress and have like more like conductive conversations here. This one, does feminism include transhumanism?
Oh yeah, I haven't watched it. No, because when my friend told me he was watching it, then like watching the video, then I told him like, oh, is it like Jubilee lah? Because I know Jubilee makes this kind of like videos as well.
Right.
Then he's like, no, it's not this, because it's 13 days ago. But remember, he watched this like before he came for exchange. So I think it's the Vice one. I'll show him tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's this one also. Do women really have it harder? Yeah.
I think Jubilee had one which was like flat earthers versus like scientists.
Oh yeah, I seen that one. That was so embarrassing to be the
yeah, and it was so like weird when they say like, oh my god, telescopes are like where you put pictures in it. That's why like you see the fucking space.
There's some other stuff also that I'm not sure if you want to go through next time. Like the video we watched at the start, right? Those kind of stupid like TikTok kind of stuff. There's like a plethora of manosphere red pill videos telling men how they should like approach women, like telling them how they should like have a game, and some of them is kind of true, some of them is very cringe, and some of them is super sexist. So I think it'd be quite funny if we can go like look into
Yeah,
that.
and plus they're like really short anyway, so it's like it doesn't take up a lot of like time.
Yeah. Okay, cool.